Hey guys, Brian Beeler here coming to you from the Storage Review Lab. We've got a little box in, and I know it doesn't look little, but this is actually the smallest rack we've ever received in the Storage Review Lab. All of our other racks have been 42U, 48U, whatever they are, big boy racks. This is a much smaller, more diminutive rack, and we actually just talked with Eaton about it on the podcast today. So now we're going to go ahead and get this thing out and see what it's all about. Before we get too far down the road though, just to level set, this is the Eaton MiniRaQ. Now this one is branded with Blackhawk Labs. They're a reseller that Eaton worked with. They heard from their customers at the edge that they had a challenge. And the challenge was to get their small edge deployments put together in a nice and tidy way that could also be secured and had a couple other key elements, and we'll go through those as we unbox this and take a look at it. So the MiniRaQ is that. It is a wall mount edge or remote use case driven rack that can secure up to 10U of gear in addition to a couple other spots. They've got a couple U for patch panels, and they've got some other neat ways to hide gear in here as well. But it's really for those small use cases to be able to fit a battery in it, a server, switch, all those things you need to run a small deployment. And like I said, we'll look at all of that. This one is branded as the 12U MiniRaQ. It's a little confusing. They add up a lot of the U's to get to the total U's for this Blackhawk Labs SKU. What we've got in here, I think, is 8 usable U though for servers and switches. So let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. Now this is small, yes, but it is mighty heavy for what it is. It's well built in the USA, manufactured by Eaton. Let me get at this and see how easy it's going to be or not to heave this up onto the desk. Yeah, so while it is our smallest rack, because Eaton builds it, it means it's probably over-engineered all the way through. And it's nice because the way Eaton's envisioning this and the way most think about these edge use cases, if you have this investment in servers and switching and whatever else you've got, maybe a little hyper-converged deployment, you really want to be able to physically secure that. Now this isn't going to stop someone from a crowbar that wants to beat the crap out of the thing and steal your system or your drives or whatever, but it is going to protect against accidental damage, stepping on the cable, unplugging it by accident, removing a drive or something like that, where somebody might cause either accidental or a little bit of intentional harm. But it will definitely secure the thing and keep it tucked away so that we don't have to worry about, when Florence goes into the supply closet where you keep your servers to get a new Sharpie, she doesn't bump against it and shut off your server. So this is really well packed. It's got foam everywhere. We've got optional riser kit. Uh-oh, this box kind of got squished on its way. And we've got foam at both ends. Now this is the fun part. This is where I go ahead and try to pick this thing up and set it up on the counter. That was easy. All right, so after a little bit of wrestling, we got this thing up on the desk to get a closer look at it. And overall, as we manipulate it and move it around, it feels really strong, feels really sturdy, which is actually pretty cool because I'll show you how this starts to come apart here in just a second. But as we're talking about edge use cases, Eaton's got a deck for us about this whole system. And one of the things is they've got these pictures of, I don't even know what this is. This one's covered in drywall dust or something, sitting on paint cans. This other one's running switching gear on top of looks like a subwoofer or something. Not all edge use cases are going to be quite this bad, but some of them are, and that's why this is really neat to be able to secure those. So with the top on in front, there's a locking mechanism in here, and then this guy's going to slide off. Now this unit comes in a number of different varieties, and this is the whole kit with all the panels. It comes also just in a minimalist with just the back panel, if you just want to get the stuff up and out of the way but aren't as worried about physical security. I think talking to Eaton, most of what they sell though is the whole unit with the top lid and locking mechanism on it, because you do want to secure these devices at the edge. You do want to put a nice shroud around it. And a couple other things about that is we don't have it yet. Eaton's going to send us a couple of the accessories that they've got. But one of them is an environmental kit, and it's a set of magnets, 3 of them, that cover the perforations in the lid. And they're mesh screens for keeping dust and dirt out of them. You take them, they magnet on, so they're easy to put in. And then when you want to clean them, they just come off, spray them off, dry them off, and throw them back on. So they're totally reusable. For the guy with the paint cans there, that would have been handy to keep the equipment from being so dusty. There's also a fan kit that, that can be put into this that's pretty neat too for additional air distribution. Now this guy, front panel lifts off, and now we can see inside. A little packing foam in here. But this is where you'll go. These 2 side panels slide off as well. So when you go to mount it, you can just mount this back piece. Now the Eaton does say it's doable by a single person. On the podcast, Jeff said he's done it as a single person. So that's neat from a deployment standpoint. A couple things. There's a little level built in here, so we're all about the tiny accessories. That's the tiniest level I think that we've seen. So when you're mounting it, that'll be an extra visual check. These 2 holes look like air vents, but it'll be up against the wall. What these are for is to let the power access through here. So if you do this right in a highly secure way, you'd have your outlet on the wall and have this thing lined up so that the outlet pops through within this enclosure, which is pretty cool. Of course, we've got all these mounting options along the sides. You can't quite see, but there are 2 panels on the top, there's 2 on the bottom, and a couple on the sides that can be removed. Those are another accessory kit to let wires in and out of here. So depending again on the configuration, there's a couple different things. So as we take a look through this deck, there's a couple other interesting things to point out. First off, they've got this top section here. They've got designed for patch paneling. So that's just another way to make sure you've got comprehensive access within the system. And as I was saying, these 2 side panels, 8 and whatever the other one is, come off as part of this kit if you as you install the base plate against the wall. Now, what we've got is the tall rack. They also have a shorter version that's available, which is again targeted towards the switch heavy deployments. This one's going to be what you would see in most businesses. They're running full-size servers. One last thing, as noted, it's available as open and secure. Ours is of course the secure, and that's what most of these are going to be. The last thing is, again, here are the filter kits that are available, the brush covers for the access for cabling, the riser brackets, which we have 2 of over there, and then the fan tray, which brings more airflow into the system. So depending on what you're putting in this, Eaton's really thought through a lot of the logistics about what other features and capabilities they need to be able to make this flexible for your edge deployment. So overall, we're looking forward to it. Kevin's been walking around downstairs already, hammering on the walls to determine where he can secure this thing. And I think it's going to end up in our utility room, and I think that'll be a pretty common deployment for these sorts of things. So if you think about, where we started back in the days of, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, we had our first couple servers. We sat them in the supply closet on the wire racks, just like a lot of orgs start with just taking the server and slamming it in a closet or a NAS or whatever it is. This won't be a great fit for a supply closet, although depending on how you're set up, it could fit there. It's really great in the utility room because you already have access to power and normally your internet and that sort of thing in one spot. So I think that's where this is going to end up. So we'll keep you in touch with that. We'll have a full review on storagereview.com once we get this thing put up on the wall. I assume, what do we have? We got a bunch of screws to put it in, and I don't know, I think like a piece of duct tape wrapped around itself would probably do the trick. It can hold 400 pounds. Kevin's not listening. That means it'll hold Kevin and a $5 footlong. A bunch of different mounting options, but we'll get that thing up, get the review up on storagereview.com, and be back with a new video soon. Thanks for tuning in.